What is going on, everyone? Welcome into the live show here today. It's Monday. After a weekend of prices pulling back, people are asking the question, is the bull market over or when will the bull run resume? In today's show, we actually don't have a lot of news to break into, so it's going to be a nice and relaxed show. We're going to look at some charts. We're going to look at some events that are coming up very soon that will have a massive impact on when the bull run will resume for cryptocurrencies. But best yet, I know a lot of people every single time are dropping questions throughout the show. They're asking for technical analysis on some of their favorite coins. And a lot of times we have so much stuff to get through, we can't get into the question and answer period. But today, I have a good feeling that we're going to have some Q&A later on in the show. So if you have some questions about the markets, about the charts, stick around to the end. We will have some Q&A before we call it a wrap on the day. If you guys are excited, make sure to smash that like button right now. Let me know in the comments also who bought some cryptocurrency this weekend. More specifically, who bought some Chainlink this weekend? I feel like it was the only coin that actually performed kind of well. I know technically a couple others did as well, but Link out here continuing to carry my portfolio, probably carrying a lot of your guys as well. Let me know in the comments if you bought some Chainlink this weekend. I got to introduce the team here. As always, we got Shrum, we got Smay. I'm, of course, Tim Warren, leading the show here. Boys, how are we feeling today? How are we feeling overall? I know, football's getting close, so it's picking up our spirits here a little bit. How's our portfolios feeling? How are we feeling about crypto right now?
Well, I'm good. Feeling great.
Why don't we answer at the same time?
Well, who goes first? You didn't say.
Hey, you literally always go first. I thought maybe you would pick up on that and roll
What am I
it,
doing? What am I doing? All right, then you know what, Shroom? You're going to have to wait because it's my turn. How do I feel about crypto right now? I feel, how I always feel about crypto, which is I am always excited. There's no such thing as bearish or bullish to me. And the reason why is because, crypto brings us all together, okay? But more importantly,
it brings us all apart because we're always fighting about it.
Well, more specifically, what I wanted to say is that what's great about markets is that there's always an opportunity to leverage them to your benefit. So never tune out, ladies and gentlemen. Never tune out. Shroom.
Let's make one more question for you before I go on to Shrum. Will Chainlink surpass XRP?
In the long term of it, Tim, let me tell you this.
Okay.
In the long term of it, I have no clue. Because, quite frankly, this is beyond the scope of stuff that I am paying attention to in the crypto market. So, but I think you can give a really good argument for both in terms of its use case. I think obviously XRP is a lot more dependent on traditional market functions, traditional monetary, system functions. And XRP, or not XRP, Chainlink is very much dependent on a much more blockchain heavy future. So that just is like you pick your poison of what you think is going to be the future outlook of technology. So that's hard to tell, but I will say at the very least, I think both are good projects to invest in the short term.
I mean, honestly, I think even what you just said right there is a good case for both of them doing very well, because I think the powers that be will never let the full system fall, at least not anytime soon, but we are transitioning to the world of blockchain. That's why I think Chainlink and XRP are two of the most fundamental great coins to be investing in this bull run. But of course, like you said, crypto is a place we all come together, and that is to fight. And the most recent fight on the internet is, of course, will Chainlink crush XRP? Shrum, I'm going to ask you the same question, but first, how are you doing, my friend? Like that HODL hat. This was a great weekend for that hat because a lot of people got confused with the dips coming back after all-time highs for Bitcoin. How you doing?
I'm doing better than I deserve, Tim, but I think that these prices are going to go lower, so I have not rotated back in with the cash that I have on the sidelines, keeping in mind that I am very, very fully allocated into crypto, but with my swing trade account, I'm quite a bit of cash, so I think we'll go lower here. I have some levels that we might talk about a little bit lower that I'm keeping my eye on. But overall, I think Chainlink will actually outperform XRP over a 10 to 20-year span. I think Chainlink just provides a lot more value, and there will be other L1s to compete with what XRP does. And I'm going to get some hate for that, I know, but that's the position that I have.
Well, you're going to get a lot of hate. You're going to get a lot of love. It's the internet where you can believe everything you ever hear on the internet, and everyone is right in their own will. And anyone who disagrees with them is an evil, stupid, terrible person. So that's the place that we're in right now. So take it as you will. I think it's going to be fun. I think this bull market, I think I said this last week, Link is not going to pass XRP's market cap in this current bull run. I'm talking about in 2025, in 2026, maybe even bleeding into 2027. Let's fast forward 10 years, though. I think there's a chance. I'm not guaranteeing it. I'm not saying for certain, but there's an avenue and a path in which 10 years from now, Chainlink absolutely is a more valuable asset than XRP. By the way, there's also a path in which XRP surpasses Ethereum and it's number 2. I don't think there's any path in which any of these coins flip Bitcoin. But if you guys like those kinds of conversations, debates, and things, we have something exciting coming up for you later this month. I'm going to hold off on it. We're going to make a big announcement on Friday about an initiative we're going to be doing over on X. Some interesting things. So if you're passionate about cryptocurrency, if you're opinionated and you want to participate in something big, come back on Friday. We have a big announcement for some exciting details in September. You're not going to want to miss it. Before we get into crypto talk, we had a comment on Friday's show. Some guy was like, I love you guys, but stick to crypto. I hate your 10-minute monologues about your life. Sorry to break it to you guys. I'm glad you like our crypto. We have lives, and we will talk about our lives from time to time, especially on slow days like today. Guess what I did last night? I don't think I actually told you guys this pre-show, so you have no idea. Guess what I did last night? Chat, you guys guess as well.
I'm going to say that you consumed some amount of either beef or chicken.
Very solid bet.
To be fair, I did consume a little bit of beef, so that's not completely off, but no, that's not it. Shrum, I'll give you one guess.
I'm going to guess that you brushed your teeth before you went to bed.
Okay, you guys are so just going low bars. Why would I have introduced a topic to talk about brushing my teeth and eating something that I eat on the daily basis? No, I bought a minivan last night. I told you guys a couple weeks ago. We were in the space for a minivan last night. Found a great deal. I'm not going to say where because then maybe people could triangle where I live. But we got a 2021 Toyota Sienna hybrid, great gas mileage. Vehicle looks beautiful. It's Brody approved. He said he was good with it. So there we go. And honestly, even though I didn't liquidate my link gains from this last week probably paid for that vehicle ahead of time. I just used some cash on hand. But with all the gains I made on Link, it was time to buy a minivan. Some of you guys know I am now a father of 2, so we're getting into that family vehicle space. That's what I do with my night last night. But the rest of it, let's talk about crypto here. Smay, we'll probably see you later. It's going to be a fun show. I know sometimes you don't come back, but Lord willing, we get to see Smay again. Everybody. If you guys love Smay, smash a heart in chat. Let's get into the market update here, starting off with some crypto bubbles. Let's share my screen here, Smay. A lot of red still on the chart here. There's a couple green outliers. For example, I know it's really small here on the daily chart. Link up 1.2%. Technically, OKB over here. It had a really crazy run this last week. It's up big. Another coin I do not like. I'm just not convinced this coin's going to make it long term. But you know what? Any of our hexagons out there, I don't know, what do they call themselves? Hexa something. Hex is up 6.4%. A lot of red here, though. Pump. This was a coin I told you guys I was very skeptical of. I just don't love meme coins. Pump down 9.7, Ray down 6.8, Virtual down 6.3, Lido. I am a fan of Lido. I do like Lido and Ray, but they're both down there. Sky is down as well. Hype is down. Overall, though, the markets continue to bleed here a little bit over the weekend. In a nutshell, it's not surprising. In fact, if you guys watched the Friday show, we did warn you that the weekend more than likely would be volatile, slightly sideways, and the beginning of this week would probably have some form of pullback early. I'll be very honest with you. I also would agree with something Shrum said earlier in the show, and that is we're not convinced that the bottom is in just yet on this miniature pullback. For more on that, let's go take a look at what's going on in the charts here. You'll see that Bitcoin's chart, after hitting a new all-time high last week, getting up here above 124,000, even making me think, hey, all right, some of these pullback things we talked about, maybe they're done and gone. We have kind of come back and squashed almost all the bullishness that we had to end last week. We got up there, and now it's all the way back down here. We wicked down in the last 24-hour candle below 115,000, right? We have bounced back up over 116,000, but I want to continue to remind people. I'm going to not maybe go so fast or so slow today. We're going to kind of speed it up, but I want to remind you just some things we're dealing with right now in the markets, starting off here with Bitcoin. You had a sell signal in play, even though it's not popping up here. I don't know why. That clearly, ladies and gentlemen, is a lower high. Let's make that red. Let's go with color red here. That's clearly a lower high on the oscillator. Am I right? Tell me in chat if for some reason some of you see that as being a higher high, in which case I'll tell you, non-financial advice, just advice for your life, go get some glasses. That's not higher high. Same thing with the RSI. Clearly, we have a lower high there, but clearly on the daily chart, we put in a higher high of candle closes in that same timeline. This is what we call bearish divergence. It's a reversal indicator. It's not crushing. It doesn't mean Bitcoin's going to collapse and drop 40% or anything. It just means, hey, little-ish local top reversal. You start to pair this with some other things, though, and you can see that we have negative money flow, right? So money had been flowing in positive to Bitcoin. Money's now flowing out. People are taking some profits. We also have negative momentum overall in strength. So the trend at the moment is bearish. When I get three of these things, when I get some sort of reversal indicator, whether it's a dot or a triangle from the Luxalgo indicator, when I get negative momentum and I get negative money flow, I call this a sell signal. It is the number one trading technique that I use. If you've been with us for a long time, you will know I love getting buy signals when I get like a green reversal, bullish momentum, positive money flow. And I love looking at sell signals when I get the exact opposite. And in this case, on the daily chart, you do have that sell signal on the daily chart. The target for this, bouncing back and forth here, I like to use the signals and overlays smart trail, this blue line right here. Forever above the blue line, I like to use it as a level of support. And you can see here on the top frame of this, we're looking at around 112,600. Could it go lower, back down to or below 110? Absolutely, it could, but that's what we're watching. And I'm not going to promise you, I'm not going to guarantee you, but I feel decently that this is going to happen. And one of the biggest reasons why is because, yes, last week we had that little splash where we got up above 124,000. I said, oh, we had a green dot on the weekly chart. Guess what? Green dot gone. Let's get rid of this red line I just drew. That green dot that came in temporarily last week, it is gone. What does that leave us with? Well, bearish divergence, bearish reversals. We actually have two reversal indicators. And then you have a gray momentum dot. And clearly, the money flow pattern, the money flow is flowing out. What does that mean? That means not only do we have a daily sell signal, we have a weekly sell signal. And that target is a whole lot lower. At the moment, even though it's climbing, it's coming in closer to $97,000 at the top of it. Am I promising you that Bitcoin's going down that far? No. I think there's actually going to be a lot of support between where we are right now and that level. Also, this smart trail is climbing. So if and when we did hit it, there's a good chance this smart trail has climbed a little higher and more than likely to make some sort of meeting above 100,000. But I want to make sure we're clear here that unless we get some great news coming in the next couple of days, and we're going to cover that here in just a couple of minutes, this is the current trajectory of Bitcoin. Right on the charts, daily and weekly sell signals are in effect. Bearish divergence is in effect. Do not hate the messenger because I'm delivering the message of what's going on. Bitcoin has a slight local top in play. And unless something majorly bullish comes and changes the narrative, you could see a trend on Bitcoin at least back down towards 112,000. And if not dropping there, we could go back down closer to 100 still, even though we just had an all-time high last week. Okay? That's where we are at the moment. I can't change the technicals. I can't change the details. I can't change the fact that the news is in limbo. I can tell you this is a very ripe time period for some manipulation. Remember on Friday, we talked about the composite man. Look at an article that came out this week that we did repost, or we screenshotted and posted over on the Tim Warren X channel. This is an article coming out from CNBC. All right, CNBC, very much so owned by large whales. You know, people like BlackRock and others. I don't know the exact owners of CNBC. I guess I didn't look into it, but the composite man owns CNBC. CNBC puts out headlines on the financial markets all the time to mislead people. What is this? What is this article? It's actually a pretty funny article. Bitcoin sinks to 115,000 after hitting its newest record as macro concerns spark liquidation wave. The best lie always has kernels of truth to it. They're not wrong. It sunk to 115,000. They're not wrong that there are some concerns. Guess where those concerns are coming from? Other composite man players who want to discourage people. Could the market keep on dipping? Yes, it could. But I'll tell you this, when you see an article like this coming out of CNBC, it's so crazy that it says sinks to 115,000 because a month ago, we would have loved seeing 115,000. That means we rallied up to it. There's jokes on the internet that talks about in the past where they're like, oh, wait for the article to say we crashed down to 100,000, meaning we were a whole lot higher than 100,000 at some point. These are the types of articles that I look for to see as potential bottom signals. I'm not saying the bottom's in necessarily today, but at the same breath, because I see this kind of negativity, despite the fact that we're still above 115,000 at the moment, when I see this kind of negativity from articles that are clearly owned by composite man manipulators, you can't help but be a little bullish when you see it, right? So the charts do show us signs of negative action, but there's also a lot of reasons to say, is the composite man using some of this confusion to buy up the dip? You guys let me know in the chat. What do you guys think? Some other things you want to be aware of right now. The stock market continues to be very strong. Like at one point, we had some weakness in the stock market. That's not happening here. And this is actually going to be a sign that the altcoins could be in a good place. And Bitcoin is just so overvalued, it wants to pull back. Why? Because it's not like Bitcoin, the stock market, all the big money things are just all selling off. The stock market continues to go up high here. You can see after getting a scare of a potential weekly sell signal, we're now back confirmed on a weekly green dot. We still have a lot of strength over there. On the daily chart, we come over here. This is where you might see a little bit of a sell-off, though. There is a daily sell signal on the stock market. This is the S&P 500. Red reversal, clearly bearish divergence. The money flow is flowing negative, and looks like today, if the day closes as it is, we're closing with a gray dot. What does that mean? Don't be surprised if you do see the S&P 500 over the next couple of days come all the way back down to 6280. Nothing crazy. I'm not talking about a 30% crash or a 10% crash. On the S&P 500, this is actually going to be a very mild little pullback. We're talking about a pullback of around 2.5% if this one plays out. But it is something to say, hey, don't be surprised if you see the stock market pull back here a little bit. And again, don't be surprised if altcoins do it as well. Speaking of altcoins, let's transition into a chart we are keeping tabs on. Bitcoin dominance, one of the most important charts to be tracking if you're looking forward to altcoin season. Altcoin season will be accompanied by a drop on the Bitcoin dominance chart. Yes, we've taken a little bit of a break here. You can see we're bouncing now between 59 and roughly 60%. So we're kind of staying in that range. Will the trend continue? Will we get a rally back up here? What is this chart saying to us? There is a lot of positivity coming in on the money flow. I wouldn't necessarily call this a buy signal just yet because we're still under bearish momentum. But if that does start to come in here, I'm not going to rule out even Bitcoin dominance, not crushing the altcoin season. Just maybe if it makes a move back up here towards 61, it could make a move back up towards this smart trail should a daily buy signal come in. To see if that's maybe a reality, let's look over here. Yeah, the 12-hour buy signal does look like it's in effect here. You do have green reversals, bullish momentum, and that positive money flow coming in. That implies it's probably a good chance we get back above 60%. 60.5% is a very realistic resistance level on Bitcoin dominance. Then the question becomes, do we confirm that? Do we make a move on the daily chart? Do we go higher? Either way, though, I'm saying this is in Bitcoin dominance might have a little bit of rally. What that means is potentially alts do lose a little bit of blood there. You're still looking here and saying, man, as long as Bitcoin dominance doesn't get back above 62, right? 62.62%. As long as we're not going and setting off the new highs, we're still on track for altcoin season. If you go back and take a look at the last altcoin season beginning, and of course we have to go back all the way to January of 2021, you don't see nothing but bearish candles. Look at the beginning of the stages. Look at the volatility that came in. What's important is we're not putting in higher highs and higher lows. But clearly, in January, we would drop Bitcoin dominance from 73.7 or 73.5% all the way down by May to 39%. Okay, but it wasn't a straight trajectory. In fact, there was a lot of choppiness early and even a couple of weeks into it. So as long as we don't start breaking those resistance levels, as long as we don't start putting higher highs on the Bitcoin dominance, don't freak out or get concerned just because you see some positive days where Bitcoin dominance picks back up some speed. That's not the end of altcoin season. Right now, I do believe we have officially started the altcoin season period. And I do think over the next couple of months, the next year and some change, we will probably see Bitcoin dominance in this blue box, somewhere between 50 to 45%. That is my prediction. Transitioning to other altcoins here that are very important. Let's take a look at Ethereum. Ethereum again last week, while Bitcoin was hitting new all-time highs, ETH got very close. You see this yellow line right here at 48.50. What's the exact number? Actually, 48.69. You see on that yellow line. That's former all-time high from Ethereum, set all the way back here in November of 2021. We got so stinking close, but we have pulled back just a little bit. You can see even last night, we did get all the way down here towards 42.32. Now, there's two things I want to take a look at here with Ethereum. I'm going to give you kind of a bearish outlook and say, hey, this could happen on the way back. But I want to give some hope and say, don't sell your Ethereum off, because Ethereum really could pop off based off of a small thing we're seeing on the charts here. Let's start off with the daily chart, though, where I got to give you the bad news first. Red reversal, bearish momentum, negative money flow. Simple as it gets there, ladies and gentlemen. Good news, we do not have it out here on the weekly chart, so you're not looking at that longer-term weekly sell-off like Bitcoin potentially could face. Again, that could get canceled out, but the moment we're facing it, red reversal, bearish momentum, negative money flow, bearish divergence in play. What does that mean? It means ETH could realistically drop back down to or slightly below $4,000. That's the bearish side of it. But if you were to go a little bit lower, you're going to see some people start to clamor in with some trends saying, but Tim, you got a nice little falling channel in play here. Couple touches on that red line. If I were to go ahead and grab another one, you're also going to see a nice support trend. Let's change that to green. Well, on one hand, a conservative would say, and I say conservative meaning conservative technical analyst, not a politically affiliated conservative person, a conservative trader would look at this and say, okay, well, at the bare minimum, we really could see the volatility, the opening of this formation move over to a potential breakout. We could get right back up to those highs we were at the other day, around almost $4,800. A more aggressive analyst would say, no. That is a bull flag, Tim. That channel attached to an explosive move from back here, we could have a much larger move from ETH if we get a breakout. This one actually taking us all the way up over $6,000 if we confirm this bull flag pattern. So ETH with that ray of sunshine, that ray of hope that says, hey, let's keep an eye on this support and resistance level. If we drop below green, guess what? We're probably dropping down to or slightly below $4,000. It's okay. Do not freak out. Guess what? As long as, I would even tell you, as long as ETH doesn't lose 3,800 around that golden pocket area, I don't think it's that big of a deal that ETH drops down whatsoever. That's still very bullish with higher highs and higher lows. But if the red line does get removed and we break through that red line, all of a sudden, bare minimum, we're talking about a move back up to 4,800. But realistically, I think you're actually in the cards for not just new all-time highs above 4,869, not just $5,000. There's an explosive move that could take us all the way to 6,000 for Ethereum. And I told you, I think we're in the early stages of altcoin season. Guess what runs usually the highest during the early stages of altcoin season? Ethereum, the number 2 crypto. It's like the dominance trickles from Bitcoin, which has been in for years. The power then trickles into Ethereum. That's kind of what we're watching right now. And then that trickles into other altcoins. But I'll tell you one altcoin that seems to be not wanting to wait their turn. They want to take on this dominance now and have explosive moves. And of course, is one of my favorite. It's Chainlink. Chainlink over the weekend almost said, wait, what? I didn't get the message. We're supposed to pull back this weekend. They just went ahead and exploded up to 2640. Prices we have not seen since all the way back here in February of 2025. While everything else was dropping, even though Link got this slight bearish divergence out here on the daily chart, it said, screw that. We're going to keep going up anyway because we're here for a bull market, right? This is why I tell you with those sell signals, you always have to keep watching the chart. We had a sell signal, red reversal, bearish momentum, bearish divergence, and negative money flow. This suggested to me, hey, we could see Link fall all the way back down here towards $19. But instead, the bulls said, nope, we'll go ahead and take this from here. We'll buy at the dip. We'll go back to highs we haven't seen in, what are we on now? 6 months. We haven't seen these prices in 6 months. And by the way, I don't think Link is necessarily done. You can see even despite the fact that we had bearish divergence, we've reloaded on the RSI. Depending on lower time frames we go to, you're probably going to see a lot more room to that upside for it. Yeah, you can go on here again, 4-hour sell signal on Link. It already looks like the money flow and the oscillator movement are wanting to cancel it out. Could we drop all the way back down to 2264? Absolutely, we could. But I'm not shorting Link anytime soon. I would simply be buying back there around $23 if I got the opportunity. Link continues to be running early, and there's a big reason why 2 years ago I told you this coin was truly, truly special. Speaking of Link, tomorrow I will be getting an updated price prediction long-term in this bull market for Chainlink. I'm not going to predict the next 5 years, 10 years. I'm going to predict before the end of this bull market, what do I still realistically think for Chainlink? You guys have heard some numbers out there. I used to get made fun of saying I thought that Link would at least make it up above 150 to 300, I said, hey, there's a world in which 700 happens. People used to laugh. They would call me crazy. Well, recently, I know we're only at $25. Recently, I've seen some predictions on the internet. People are talking about 1,000. I saw one person say $10,000 by 2027. I do not think that we're going to see that happen to 10,000. The same reason I don't think XRP is going to make it to $1,000 itself. These are both outlandish, ridiculous predictions. I just think it's funny that I've been being called crazy for my predictions on Link, calling it for over 2 years now, that this would be an explosive bull market. And all of a sudden now I might be one of the most sane people in the room predicting just what Chainlink can do. Either way, there's a lot of money to still be made. So make sure to check out tomorrow's video. I'll be going through some math and some things to look for, a lot of if-then statements, but giving you both conservative, realistic predictions and also maybe more aggressive, realistic predictions. You know, if the bull market takes off and has a lot of room to the upside, if we see $11 to $15 trillion coming and we see Chainlink really become one of those special projects, you can see a very high price level. I do think there's a good floor, though, and you want to pay attention to that in the video tomorrow. Let's see here. Anything else I wanted to cover before we move on and get into some conversations? Yeah, there's a couple other things we got to go through here. Longer market open here today, but again, we're taking our time because there's not a whole lot of news to go through. As we're going to transition into the next part of the show here, we're going to start talking about what needs to happen for the bull run to continue. We're in the charts. We're telling you there's a lot of levels that can be pulled back. There's a lot of things that we can come back. Bitcoin can come back. Chainlink can come back. ETH can come back. Insert your favorite altcoin. We can maybe do some technical analysis later. There are levels that we could absolutely continue this pullback before the rally continues. But there's certain details and things that could turn this round on a dime. Let's start off over here. Go to my screen, Smay, and take my face off because I need to see this in fullness. Yes, this is down from last week's 95% prediction from the CME futures that we would get a rate cut in September. 83 is not bad, though, right? So we still see an 83% likelihood of a rate cut in September. Rate cuts in September, ladies and gentlemen, will be bullish. Rate cuts will be bullish unless unemployment skyrockets to like 7-8% in the next month, which I'm not predicting it to do it. Rate cuts will bring liquidity, which will allow more people to invest and go into risk assets like cryptocurrency. If something comes out saying that we're not going to get rate cuts, I'm not predicting a massive crash, but that could be bearish. If we see this drop and all of a sudden the likelihood of a pause continues to rise, all of a sudden, then we have a potential delay again. And I'm going to talk more about that here in a couple minutes, but I wanted to make sure you're clear here. Rate cuts at the moment, good. Pauses at the moment, bad, but not too bad. Some things to keep an eye on here the rest of the week. Of course, this morning we did look at building permits and housing starts and everything, but let's kind of look at the rest of this week. Fast forwarding to Wednesday. There's a couple really important things happening. We got some Fed speeches from Waller and Bostic, but we'll have some FOMC minutes. It's not going to be the FOMC meeting. They're not going to announce rate cuts, but there will be minutes. Sometimes these are nothing burgers. Sometimes they give us some bit of information that we didn't know about. So that's going to be important. But more important, at 8 p.m. starts the Jackson Hole Symposium. This is an event every year where the Fed members go out to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. They have a massive meeting thinking about the future. It's almost like an annual planning meeting. I don't know the exact details of everything, but there's going to be a lot of speeches. People watch this. There's going to be news out there covering every move. You're going to hear a lot of things from the Fed themselves, from Jerome Powell and other Fed members. You're going to hear things from the White House and their thoughts on the future of the Fed and who's going to be involved and who's not going to be involved. This could have massive implications on going back over to this tool. Will we still see likelihoods of rate cuts? Either way, you see that starting on Wednesday. Throughout Thursday, we'll get more speeches from Fed members. We'll get initial jobless claims. We'll keep covering those, of course. And then, Jackson Hole Symposium. Anything else happening Friday? This will be the big one. Powell will speak on Friday. We'll have the last one on 8 p.m., the Jackson Hole Symposium. And then we'll go into next week and talk more. For more on things coming in the next couple of weeks that will have an impact on crypto markets, I want to throw it over to Shrum, fly back to his other name, his old name. Shrum, what are some other things happening here? I mean, rate cuts are going to be the things that people are looking at and they're staring at, but it's not that simple. There's so many details and things that go into whether or not we will get a rate cut this year or not. What do we need to see in the news to spark and change the bearish patterns back into a bull run coming?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things that would really help, it can happen this week, right? And that's the Jackson Hole Symposium, right? If Jay Powell could get up there, calm the markets, say some magic words, that signals risk on, that's going to be generally bullish. Now, what could he say? He could hint that there's going to be a rate cut, right? He could hint that they're maybe taking into consideration things other than employment and inflation, things like the debt, right? That would be if he was to signal that, that would be an almost 100% assurance that all eyes are set on a cut. Okay. So what we'll get, though, is probably Jerome Powell, who loves to play it right up the middle, give us no new information, and say he's going to follow the data. After all, that's kind of what he's being paid to do. Unemployment is coming out September 5th, and then inflation is coming out September 11th. So you want to be tuned in around those days. There's going to be heightened uncertainty on those weeks as the data comes out from the Bureau Labor Statistics that we don't know where that data is going to fall on the reliability factor, but we'll just leave it there. And then we have the FOMC decision itself on September 17th. So there's a bit of a pressure, a bit of a waiting, kind of a vacuum right now that we're in currently. It's also the August lull where a lot of Wall Street traders are out on holiday. Either they're up in the Hamptons or they're down in Florida or they're down in Spain if they're in Europe, and they're just hanging out. They're not doing a lot of trading. Volumes are a little lower, right? So we want those traders to come back, get back to their desks, and hand over their gains to the elite traders in the Discord. But until then, you can expect there'll be a little bit of a wonky market. When we get into September, then I think traders are going to be back at their desks, fingers active, trading happening, stop losses being triggered, right? And there's going to also be those big prints, unemployment, inflation, and then, of course, the all-important September rate decision. Again, poly market, other tools, the 3-month bonds, all indicating that we will get a cut in September, but those data prints in September could potentially spook the markets a little bit. So even though the actual outcome isn't changed, there could be some temporary volatility that may shake you out of your investments, which is what you don't want to do. And then we have the Clarity Act. So the Clarity Act is going to be a little further out. September 19th is when there is expected to be the beginning of debate in the Senate for the Clarity Act to be passed. If you're not tracking, the Clarity Act is different from the Genius Act, right? The Clarity Act is a market structure act that is a legislation that addresses the entire crypto market, Web3, stablecoins, everything. Genius is much more narrowly focused on legislating stablecoins. That's already passed. Trump's already signed that, in case you've been living under a rock. Clarity Act, September 2nd, again, is when the recess for Congress will end, but likely it won't be the top priority bill for them to legislate and debate on. That will likely have to come around September 19th is the earliest projection, but that is a very penciled in, very loose number. The very short answer to your question, Tim, is there's a lot of news coming. There's a lot of data coming in September, especially in mid-September, the 17th and the 19th, when the Clarity Act really gets going and when we get a final decision on whether or not the Federal Reserve is going to switch from quantitative tightening to quantitative easing. And usually when they start their quantitative easing, when they pivot it from one to the other, they don't stop for several quarters. They just keep going, whether it's hiking or cutting. Of course, last year into the election was the exception. That's all I'll comment there. But that's essentially what the market is waiting for, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And like I said, it's kind of a thing to kind of follow here, everybody. The charts right now on those lower time frames. And I know the daily chart's really not a low time frame, but in the grand scheme of things, it is. The daily chart tells us at best what the next month looks like. Realistically, probably what the next week and a half could look like. And there's always a chance it flips and goes the other way. But the daily chart is showing us trajectory downwards for the next couple of weeks, next week and a half at least. The news on the grand scheme of things, though, as Shrum's laying out here, there's not a lot of reasons to be predicting bull market tops. Of course, you're going to have bears out there doing it. They're not going to. They're doing their job. That's their job as the bears to tell us everything's doom and gloom and we'll never make it. It amazes me sometimes the resilience of some of the bears out there, that it doesn't matter how wrong they get. Every new high was that was the official top. Oh, that was the top. 70,000 was the top. We're going down to 3,000. Oh, never mind. 100,000 was the top. 115,000 was the top. 124 was the top. You got to give them their flowers. They're persistent. They're keen. That's their job. They're going to get really loud as negativity happens and settles in. But the long-term trajectory of what's happening in the news, the events coming out from government entities, the economy, is the economy in the greatest place that we've ever seen? No, it's not. Some people try to tell you it is. Some people tell you we're at the worst place. It's not. The economy is sitting there somewhere in the middle where it's passable, right? If the economy was a high school senior, they might not go to college, but they'll graduate high school, right? We get a C here for the economy. That means that we have a lot of room still to the upside. Some things that could flip it, some things that could change this and say, hey, we have something really bad happening would be if we have a massive spike in both unemployment and inflation. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's definitely on the table of something to watch for. So if anyone's out there saying, hey, Tim, what would make you jump ship and say the bull market's over before signs like crazy all-time highs for altcoins, before things like massive retail interest, before things like Coinbase's app being in the top of Apple's app store? We don't have any of that. I would call an early bull market top if the economy hit the crapper, right? This is a family show, so I'm not going to use a word that starts with an SH, but a lot of people like to use that expression as well. If the economy goes to crap, yes, early bear market. That's not what we're seeing here, ladies and gentlemen. So until we see the economy go to crap, you got to assume the direction is to the upside, but it's a matter of time. It's a matter of triggers. Long-term trajectory bullish, intermediate trajectory, daily chart, still riding some bearish waves. All of that could change, though, with some amazing news coming out here. I want to go ahead and open it up here, though. I think, we covered a lot of things here. Not a lot of news to cover here today, but I told you earlier in the show, it's a great addition to answer a lot of your questions. So go ahead and start bringing them in. We're going to read some chat here for a little bit. If you have questions about charts, feel free to ask charts. We can take a look at a lot of altcoin charts here today. But I think more importantly, if you guys have questions just about markets in general, we are really trying here, as I do think some newer members are starting to join. I think we have some fresh faces on crypto YouTube and crypto X, where people maybe are just getting involved and they're really trying to grab hold of what's going on in this crypto investing world. Maybe you came from TradFi and you're just trying to learn crypto, but maybe like me, 5 years ago, I had no experience in investing whatsoever. I had no idea what people were talking about. I would really love to help answer some questions of some, beginners out there who are trying to really sink their teeth into investing to change their lives for forever. This is a great time to ask some of those questions. Spank Mapleton. That's a name. Thoughts on AVAX? What's my thoughts on AVAX? Let's start off with good. AVAX, good. I like AVAX. I think AVAX is going to have a strong bull run left. If you want to get my thoughts on the charts, I did this last week sometime. We had a list of 8 coins that I thought could have a really explosive next run. The next time we start the run here, they have a really explosive move here. Go to my chart here, Smay. I'll show you guys what that is. AVAX here, after bottoming out, back twice in that similar level around 1569, we have a nice looking W pattern. We've hit this resistance now 3 times. Let's break it, right? Let's get AVAX above this 2652 level, right? That's going to be what I want to see. But once that happens, the W chart would suggest that the breakout, once we break above 2650, 2670, we can make a move all the way up here towards $47, $48. Coincidentally, that's going to put us right back into a trend of resistance that we've hit some lower highs dating back to March of 2024, right? March 2024, we put in a lower high later in December of 2024. And again, this breakout would call for a lower high of $46, $47. Well, but what happens if we break that? Because that's a falling channel pattern. All of a sudden, it gets even bigger where you take the opening trajectory of that formation, move it over. And this is what actually gives us what I called for AVAX a year and some change ago. We did some mathematics and I gave it a range between $100 and $200 for AVAX. This would send the price of AVAX to $153. So kind of right there, dab smack in the middle of that $100 to $200 price prediction for AVAX. I think this is still very realistic, right? So that's the macro TA right there for you. Let's see if AVAX is still sitting like a lot of its other indicators. We have a bearish indicator going on here. Not really. Red reversal, but muddy money flow, not negative, not positive. We actually are under a green dot right here. So that's actually a very positive sign. Let's see if we do get a sell signal at any lower time frames. Not on the 12-hour. We'll go 4-hour here. Not really on the 4-hour. Maybe a little bit, but not much. This is one I'm not necessarily shorting. I don't know if I'm looking for a scalp long at the moment. I'd have to do a lot of more analysis and stuff that we do over in our VIP trading group every single day. But if you're looking for a longer-term buy on AVAX, I think this is a muddy coin. But when I look at that macro perspective, is it really going to matter, if you buy at 23 or if you do get a dip back down to 22, 21? I think this is a coin that's on the verge of a breakout, and not just one minor breakout back up into the $40 range. I think we could be starting something special, and this is the right place to buy in if you don't have enough of it to catch before we make moves above $100. I think it's a good place to maybe also slow down a little bit for people. And you guys hear me talk about price predictions all the time. Go up my screen for a second here, Smay. We don't need this. Go, just my face. You hear me give out price predictions all the time. Tomorrow you will see me make a video about Chainlink and my price prediction for Chainlink at the end of the bull market. If AVAX is sitting there around 150, that'd be awesome. Am I suggesting that you buy AVAX and hold it and refuse to sell until you see $153? No. Number one, stay up to date with what's happening in the news, what's happening in the charts. We are not financial advisors here. I'll tell everyone to do your own research. Continue to do this for yourself. The purpose of the Tim Warren channel is to educate you how to think for yourself, not to just give you the fish, but teach you how to fish so you can go out and do this yourself. If things change, if the economy changes, like I talked about just a couple of minutes ago, if the narrative for AVAX changes, I would take profit long before 150, okay? The reality is, even if everything's good, I might just get to a certain point where I'm like, all right, AVAX just got to $60. I'm going to take a little bit of profit just because I don't want to get locked out and not have any profit whatsoever. There's absolutely reasons along the way to take profit on your own levels. What I'm saying when I give you a price prediction of 150 is not wait for 150. It's don't be surprised if we get this high. So maybe you leave at least a little bit of your AVAX for that long. But in the short end, absolutely look for other reasons to take profit along the way. And there's so many different styles and ways to do that. Again, all things that we teach in our VIP trading group. If you're sitting there and listening to this, maybe you've heard the show before. You're like, what is this VIP trading group? Well, go to the link down below. Every day we have in a Discord group live trading, live suggestions. If you buy the Academy version of it, there's a section called the Academy. We have videos where we teach you technical analysis, how to understand reading support and reading resistance and reading the indicators. Again, this is also a group with thousands of people who are just like you. Some are brand new. Some have been in this for years. Some of them, I'm going to be honest with you, if you think I know crypto, which some of you are going to laugh and say Tim doesn't know crypto, which ha ha ha. If you like what I do with technical analysis, if you like how I read the crypto markets, I think there's people in our group that just love our community who might know more than me. And so even though I will do my best to answer all of your questions over there, you actually might find a lot of other people that maybe are even smarter than me who can help you even better, as again, you learn for yourself how to invest and trade and create generational wealth. To do that, I think we just posted it in the chat. Check out that VIP trading group. If not, if you're watching back later, go to the description. It's in the description. Go check it out right now. Would love to see you guys over there. All right. Let's see what we have going on here. Tim from Roan83. By the way, Shrum or Smay, if you guys see any questions while I'm talking, copy and paste them. We'll make sure we have some good ones if they're good questions. But otherwise, I'm going to catch the questions as I see them. Roan83 says, Tim, do you ever adjust the oscillator in the settings to match your trading style? Roan, I have. I haven't more recently just because I really like my trading strategy that I use. There's a lot of technicals that I know. Go to my screen here, Smay. There's a lot of technical analysis that I use from time to time, but my number one strategy for trading and knowing when to buy and when to sell is what I've been talking about throughout this show. When I look for those tactics, like, do we have a green dot? Do we have green momentum? Do we have positive money flow, or vice versa? And for that, I've found the settings on the oscillator matrix that come default. These are the best settings. I will say, you might notice if you're like this, there are some differences. Like I have red on top, green on bottom. That's a color preference. You can absolutely go into settings and mess with that. I also have enlarged the dots to make them easier to see so they stick out more. If you go into settings, come on now. I hit the settings. Why are we not going to settings? I don't know what's happening here. Let's try this one more time. Maybe I can't do it on full screen. I don't know. Settings. All right. So Trading View is not allowing me to go into settings right now. So I guess I'd have to show you over in our Discord group. That's very strange. Let me maybe refresh the page to see if it's just a glitch happening here. Let's try this one more time. If it doesn't work, we'll move on. But there are ways to go into, there we go. There are ways to go into visibility. Nope, sorry, style. And overbought HW down and overbought, reversal up negative and then reversal down negative. I just went in here and I enlarged the size of it, and that's what makes the dots and everything larger. I play with things like that, but if you're asking, do I go into the settings and mess with the inputs? Do I mess with the money flow settings? You can. I have done that in the past. If you were to go to money flow, if you were to go to like 12, for example, look at how volatile the money flow would get. It can go up and down really fast. It's going to be very sensitive. That doesn't help my trading strategy, though. So that's the reason I don't do it. I like the default trading strategy where it's set at 35. That's the default setting. That's what works best for me. But there are ways to change that setting and mess with it and do some other things if you're looking to do it. And we teach some of that over in the Discord group as well. Daniel Pearson said, what did you buy this weekend? You go off my screen now, Smay. What did you buy this weekend? I actually put all of what I bought into our Discord. That's one of the perks of being a member is you guys to see my portfolio. My portfolio split at the moment is not perfect. So I put in there this weekend, like, hey, this is my current portfolio. These are the coins I'm weak in. Like, these are coins I need to buy more of. And to be fair, it's not that I have done it terribly. It's sometimes there's a couple of coins I probably have a little bit too much of, and it's because they've had good runs here recently. Like, for example, Chainlink. Like, you're looking at Chainlink and you see the percentage and you'll be like, holy crap, Tim, that's a really high percentage. By the way, I love it, so I'm glad I have it that high, but it's also because Chainlink's had a nice run while other things have been a little bit more sleepish, sluggish, and so it's higher up in my portfolio. But I won't tell you everything, but I'll tell you right now, this weekend I had to buy some more Ondo. I had to buy some more Sui. There's a couple other ones. I bought more BitTensor Tau and then Aerodrome. And there's a couple others. I'm going to leave that and kind of keep some of that stuff for the paid group. That's part of what you get when you're a paid member in the Tim Warren trading group. But I just get a little shift for you guys. If you're wondering, some coins that I am acquiring more of, those are pretty easy gimmies. Ondo, Sui, Aerodrome, and Tau. Those are things I bought this weekend. All right. Tim have been around. Okay, what is this? Tim, have around. Oh, you're saying you have around $800 in Plume, or should I just put it in my big bag of Link? Dezel. That's a good question. I'm sure there's a lot of people with questions like that. I cannot tell. Like, first of all, I'm not a financial advisor. I can't tell you financially what to put in your portfolio, right? Even in our group, we have actually one group. We have private coaching, right? So we have some members that pay for private coaching. We'll do some really in-depth stuff with their portfolio. We're not telling them what to buy. We're not telling them how much of it to buy. We're coaching them on how to think about it logically to understand their wants and desires and help them understand where they want to put things. But every person's different, right? So for example, if someone were to come in and let's say they have $5 million worth of crypto, well, I'm not going to tell that person to go crazy risky. I might have a small section where I tell them to invest in something like Plume, but I'm just telling you right now, if someone came in and they said, I have $5 million and my goal is to turn this into $10 million. I'm not saying I wouldn't tell them to buy any altcoins, but I probably would say, hey, bud, we need to probably just stick to Bitcoin. Let's have some security with the investment. Versus if I had a person come in and say, I have $10,000 and my goal is to turn it into like 100,000. Well, you aren't going to do that holding Bitcoin anytime soon by itself. Love Bitcoin. The goal of investing is to get Satoshis, but Bitcoin is not 10xing in the next year, right? It's going to take probably at least 5 to 10 years for the next 10x on Bitcoin. So that's where I get more aggressive with altcoins. And it always helps. I would tell people holding Bitcoin is good, but that's where like Plume holds can come in and cancel some of that out. It's like, oh, your Bitcoin might only 2 or 3x from here in this bull market. But something like Plume, where we're looking at maybe closer to a 50x potential, we're balancing it out. Does that mean you put 50% of your portfolio into Plume? Heck no. Every single person is different. Every single person's risk tolerance is different. Every single person's money habits are different. Every single person's goals are different. And so I can't give you one blanket piece of advice on how to do something and have it fit. I would need to know a lot more about you and your risk tolerance and your history and your experience. But I would tell you, Plume or Link, I would try to have a little bit of both. I have a little bit of both, but I'm not going to outdo my holding of Link with Plume. Yes, Plume has a higher potential. Yes, I'm expecting a greater return on my Plume holding than Link, but it's also risky. There's a chance Plume flops and burns and dies, whereas with Chainlink, I think Chainlink's pretty solid. It's going to make it here. So I'm definitely holding a lot more Link than Plume, and that is probably advice I'd give almost any entity, any person, no matter how much wealth they have. All right. Shrum, you see any analysis? I see City Girl asked for Cardano analysis, ADA analysis. Well, look at some of that. Any chat you saw that was interesting?
Yeah, there was a Randy Welds asked, what indicators do you recommend as a necessity for beginner traders? I would say you definitely want to take a look at Bollinger Bands and MACD, but that's just the start. If you really want to take trading and investing seriously, definitely take a look at Lux Algo. That's a proprietary indicator, but it's going to be very easy for beginners especially to get involved and understand the charts a lot better. And guess what? In our Discord, Tim uses, I use Lux Algo indicators just about as often as I use MACD and Bollinger Bands, which would fall into the category of traditional indicators. Lux Algo is just great. We do have a link for it, discounted version of it down in the chat, in the Discord, in the description. So go check out that link.
Not to say those, the two indicators you said, they're a good one as well. I would go completely different though. I would say if you're looking for free trading view indicators, MACD is good. And so are Bollinger Bands. I use those. I think there's two that would probably be a little bit more valuable than those, though. I would say RSI and simple moving averages. You see RSI from time to time. Go to my screen here. I love the Lux Algo oscillator. You guys see me use it a lot. There's just a lot of features there. But if I couldn't have that, let's pretend I'm not ready yet to spend money on Lux Algo, because as Shrum said, you do spend money there. Let me help you with some free stuff. That's the MACD. But RSI, between bearish divergence, overbought and oversold, am I going to be able to use it by itself and make billions of dollars? No, you have to use it with other things. However, knowing when there's bearish divergence, knowing when we're overbought and oversold will tell me, hey, where should I be buying and where should I be selling in the moments? And then you have something like a simple moving average where you have lots of different ones. For example, and we're going to talk about this actually in a second, we do Cardano TA, you have zones that a lot of other traders utilize. I mean, look back at these levels. This yellow line is the 50, the purple line is the 200. Clearly, there's times where we go through it, but look how many touches you have of resistance and support on these zones. It's one of those things, if I could know, hey, I have bearish divergence back in here, I'm overbought back in here, I'm looking to sell, I might look and say, well, I'm looking at the 50, and that's a good place to take profit on my short position. Very good little setup right there to utilize that. So I would have more of that, just so you guys know, in case you're like, well, Tim, I never see you talk about the simple moving averages. One of the reasons why is because that's what I get with Lux Algo. With Lux Algo, I get told when we have reversals coming in. I get told when the money flow is flowing out. So I use that as a super powered RSI. And then the same thing, the signals and overlays, you guys hear me talk about these smart trails. These smart trails are like super powered moving averages. So the simplistic versions of them, the free versions of them, would be like looking at the simple moving averages. If I want to take it a step further and get a little bit better data, that's where Lux Algo comes in and accelerates and gives you even better information to work with. But those are the ones I would work at. There were some others, one put in chat. I don't know why your name still is wrong. Again, is in chat. His name's Steve. I love Steve. He's a great trader. He's in our Discord. He helps people every single day. His name's more of a joke than anything. He says Fibonacci is also very good. I love Fibonacci as well. So Fibonacci, great levels for support, resistance. When you're in what's called price discovery mode, that means when something hits prices we've never seen before. For example, Bitcoin hitting these new all-time highs. How do you do analysis on where Bitcoin could get to? Well, we've never seen this price before. Well, guess what? One of the things you would do is you'd break out Fibonacci and you look at some extensions. For example, right here, we told people, don't be surprised if 121, 122 is going to be a little bit of resistance. We were saying this way back here in May of 2025. Why? Because there was a significant Fibonacci tool. And guess what happened, ladies and gentlemen? Guess where we rejected back here in July? Right there at 100. Well, we actually went higher, but we wicked higher. We closed at 121, and then we had a nice little pullback. You can look at the future and say, hey, another level is going to be significant. 140 is going to probably have some sell-off. All this because of Fibonacci extension. So those are other good indicators that are on TradingView you can use. I think that's a good question. All right, Daddy Chill says, Tim, what are your thoughts? What's your take on Chainlink in 2026? Daddy Chill, we're going to do Cardano TA here in a second, by the way, because that was another question. You're going to have to wait till tomorrow's video. Tomorrow's video is my updated Chainlink price prediction. I will talk about 2026 and what I think it's going to do there. So good question. Just can't answer it here. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you get that notification tomorrow at 3 p.m. You will see I'm recording it tonight. It'll be edited tomorrow, and it will be going out at 3 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on that one. Cardano, there's a couple things here to look at. We'll get some good, we'll get some bad. On the bad side, it does look like bearish divergence is setting in. Lower highs in the oscillators here on daily, but higher highs on the price action, right? You get in here, we don't have an official sell signal. You do have the bearish divergence, but you don't have negative money flow. You don't have a gray momentum dot. However, I would still say if price starts to drop, don't be surprised to see 78, 80 cents. Let's see if there's an order block. There we go. Okay, I was going to say there probably is an order block in here that's going to be more significant. 82 to 85 cents, I think, is an interesting zone. Should Cardano start to pull back, that is where I would be keeping an eye on the short time frame for some buying. Wouldn't be surprised to see us pull back to that level based on the order blocks and even some daily bearish divergence there. On the flip side, I told you I was going to use simple moving averages. I've seen a couple of people post on this. It's a good thing to look at. This yellow line right here is the 50-day moving average. So I'm on the daily chart here. The purple line is a 200. You're going to see here a couple days ago, we had a cross. We call this a golden cross. It's a lagging indicator, but it's just kind of signaling how bullish things can be. And if you look at the last time this happened, this is what you're going to see a lot of times, but I think it's a good indicator here. The last time we saw Cardano 50 crossed by the 200 daily, you saw Cardano, of course, if we were to go back way to the back before the cross happens, we're looking at a price increase of roughly, what is that? 300%. If you go back to the day the cross actually happened, so right in here, you would have seen an increase on Cardano's price after that of a good 88%. What does that mean? Okay, well, let's go back over here and let's take this box and move it to where, let's say we replicate this, and we got that call right there. 88% would say we're looking at somewhere on $1.44 as a potential breakout move to the upside. So that's not guaranteed. I guarantee you can find some examples in the past of bullish crosses that don't work out so well. Like here's a bullish cross that ends up being bullish, but there's some others. If I go back in history, and I have to go back probably really far in history because there's not a lot of golden crosses here. For example, right here, this golden cross ended up marking a major top on Cardano. So these indicators are by no means perfect. I am very bullish on Cardano. I think Cardano's picking up steam once again. I love seeing higher highs and higher lows. We really haven't seen higher highs and higher lows in Cardano this entire bull market. You make an argument back here in 2023, you saw some, but even this, like if we were to go back to the pullback of summer of 2024, yeah, we had this massive skyrocket of Cardano's price action in November of 2024, all the way going from 32 cents to $1.32 in how long? November 7th to December, like 1 month. But there's hardly any volatility, and we went right back into a kind of a bear trend. I love seeing the higher high and higher low here on Cardano. I think this is very, very bullish. If you go out to things like the weekly chart here, again, we have a bull cross, a golden cross there in the weekly chart. You have buy signals on the weekly chart. I think this is one we're touching into the smart chart right now, but I think we explode through there. I would not be surprised very soon to see $1.50 on Cardano. And then later on, I'll do an updated Cardano price prediction the next couple of weeks, but I'll tell you right now, it's going to be north of $5. I'm not going to give the exact numbers and the exact details and data. I still see Cardano going north of $5 before this bull market's over. I would tell people, if you're saying, when do I buy Cardano? I'm not a financial advisor. I believe any purchase of Cardano below $1 is a beautiful spot to buy. So do with that information what you will. Let's take, oh man, we answered a lot more questions than I thought here. It's already 3:59. Let's do one more question, and then we'll call it a show here today. How are you guys liking this show? You guys like a lot of Q&A? Do you want us to talk about less news just to handle more questions? Let us know in chat. We'll talk about news when it comes out, though. But one more question, Shrum. I'll let you choose, and we'll call it a day today.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons why it's a slower news day is because of what Real Chris B is hinting at. He said, not a crypto question, but do you think a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia will send gold to the downside? You're asking a specific question there about gold. I think that Ukraine-Russia situation is much more of an oil story if it's related to any kind of asset. Gold could potentially move on it. Gold's consolidating near its all-time highs. But I would just say that it's kind of taking everyone's attention. The Russia-Ukraine deal, there's not a lot of companies out there that are going to try to launch campaigns, make big announcements in this news cycle, because all eyes are on Russia and Ukraine and, what could potentially happen there, peace or, more of the same. So that's kind of my response. there might be more of a narrative with the gold story. Tim, do you know much about that?
So I would say gold's price is going to have a lot more to do with the dollar than with Russia, Ukraine by itself. So if your statement is that Russia-Ukraine conflict could strengthen the dollar, would that weaken gold? Yes, absolutely. Unless you see the dollar skyrocketing, which I don't see, I think that the answer is no. I think gold will continue to go the upside. Why is that? Because if you're in crypto, we say all the time, not necessarily on this channel, but crypto people in general, that Bitcoin is the perfect hedge against inflation of the US dollar. It's a perfect hedge against inflation of any fiat currency that's inflatable. It's not being treated that way just yet. It will be. It will be in the future. That's why we tell you to load up on it. Gold is treated as a hedge against inflation. What are we seeing with the skyrocketing of gold? We are watching not just the dollar fall and be inflated. We're also seeing hope in the future of the dollar be decimated. It's not that gold's price is going up because people are viewing it as more valuable. It's going up because the dollar is being viewed as less valuable, right? So I don't see that changing unless the argument is, hey guys, the dollar is going to surge when Russia versus Ukraine war ends. If that's your statement, maybe, but I don't think that's a lock that the dollar surges when that war ends. So that's my answer, but we'll be curious. We'll watch it. We'll keep an eye on the gold chart. Like Shrum said, it's consolidating. You could have a good argument here. Go to my screen real quick here, Smay. You can have a good argument that you have a bull pennant in play right here where you do see a little bit of a triangle on gold, higher lows and lower highs, all this attached to an explosive price action move here. If this breaks bullishly, this would be setting the price of gold, currently at 3,333. This would take us all the way up to 44.80 would be the next big leg on gold. Now, I'm not talking about giving that by next week. That trajectory, if it continues, would take us to December, early 2026. But that's what we're looking at. I would lean towards gold continues to the upside because the dollar just continues to get obliterated. They're printing more money. When we get rate cuts, that'll weaken the dollar. They're already printing more dollar. U.S. debt just hit new highs of 37 trillion. They are turning money printers on. That's why gold will go up. That's why Bitcoin will go up. That's why risk assets will go up, because people will flee from the dollar because they see it's a dying asset. Eggs will go up. Milk will go up. Groceries will go up. Cars will go up. But so will crypto and so will gold. All right, it is 4:03. That means it's the end of today's show. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Thank you for supporting the channel. If you are still here, again, a lot of you guys are, make sure to smash that like button if you enjoyed the show today. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Again, Chainlink coming out tomorrow. Chainlink price prediction. You don't want to miss it. So the best thing to do, make sure you're subscribed. If you, for some reason, are subscribing, you're not getting notifications, hit the notification bell. That's that YouTube has to send you notifications if you hit that notification bell. So hit that right now. Also, if you can do me a favor, go subscribe in the link down below to our other social media outlets. Subscribe on X, Instagram, and TikTok. We're really trying to grow those other features, reach more and more people to help spread the word of crypto and teach healthy, proper investing to the masses to create generational wealth. Help us out. Spread the word. We'll see you again on Wednesday's live show. Till then,